Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. If you're interested in learning to trade successfully on sports, then why not visit the BetAngel Academy, where we have more detailed videos. So in case you haven't guessed, it's Cheltenham is coming right up, and of course I really enjoy the big race meetings. Why do I enjoy them? Well, generally because there's a shed load of money in them, and that gives plenty of opportunity. If you look at the average UK horse race, that turns over about $500,000 on average, probably a little bit lower than that, slightly lower. But when you go to Cheltenham, if you look at Cheltenham over the course of last year, 2017, there was £125 million matched at Cheltenham. So it's one of the biggest meetings by far over the course of the year. Now there are 28 races at Cheltenham, so if you do a bit of maths and do 125 divided by 28, that will tell you that the average turnover on these races is about £4.5 million. So it's pretty big. Some of the smaller races will be a little bit lower than that, perhaps £1.5 million. But if we get a short priced favourite in a feature race, then you could see that turnover go up to 10 to 11 million. Now that's great, but it's a problem as well, because generally, because there's a lot of money going through those markets, they tend to produce absolutely enormous amounts of money waiting to get matched on either side. So if you're there with your tenner and you're sat behind £55,000 worth of money, it's going to take a little bit of time for that bet to get matched. And that's one of the characteristics that you find with the big meetings, is that the order queues do tend to be pretty big. And that can be a little bit difficult if you've never traded one of these big meetings before. Because typically what happens, the more amount of money that comes into a market, it sort of crushes and changes the way that the market works. And movements are slow but deliberate. So like if they fancy the favourite, you'll probably find it will go from here to here, but that will be a slow and deliberate movement. It would, you have to be, if you do a trade, you want to be very certain about what you want to do. Whereas if you look at a race at Wolverhampton on the all-weather in the winter in the middle, the price would go here, there, and jump around all over the place and just be a little bit chaotic. But the big meetings tend to require you to have bigger balls, for want of a better word. You're going to have to commit to a trade and then see the trade right through. It tends not to retrace. It tends to, something happens in the market and it tends to follow that pattern of behaviour. Now the funny thing about last year is that that didn't behave itself in the way that we would normally expect. And I remember very well there was a horse called Let's Dance which actually went on to win, and there's some very unusual activity in that market. If you want to reappraise yourself as to how last year traded, go and visit the thread on the forum, because the thread on the forum will give you a lot of information about how the market's behaved. And again, this year I'll be on the thread on the forum and everybody will be discussing what they're seeing in the market. But I remember the chart for Let's Dance last year, it was sort of all over the place. And that was very unusual for such a big market at Cheltenham. So we'll be on the lookout to see if that occurs again this year. But of course, though that's how we expect the markets to move. We expect the average race to be about 4.5 million. The traded range will be a little bit tighter than normal, and the market moves should be fairly deliberate. Will that happen? We'll have to wait until we go into the race. But that's what's happened in previous years, with little subtle variations along the way. And the reason I like Cheltenham is it gives me a chance to use decent stakes and to really put a decent sum of money through the market and to really go for it. And that's something that I can't do at the smaller meetings. So as I've said to you before, that's why I love and wait for these big meetings, because it gives me a chance to really go for it again. Whereas a lot of the time during the year I'm reasonably defensive. I'm just trying not to get into trouble, and I'm just waiting for that next big meeting so I can actually start to use some decent stakes again. Now from your perspective, that may be the biggest amount of money available in the market may become a problem for you. But what I suggest you may want to do is go ahead and do it anyway, because you're going to have to learn how to cope with markets that look like that. But also, why not try BetDAC? I've recommended this many times before, but during the big meetings, BetDAC tends to trade pretty well. So well that last year I managed to win on all 28 races on BetDAC. Now, some of them were bigger totals than others, but the fact remains I did manage to win on all 28. If you felt that you could do that punting, forget it, because if you do a 28-fold accumulator, the numbers are so massive, it's incredible. Even if you attempted to sort of lay something, you'd have to take enormous amounts of risk, and it would still be a massive number for you to be able to pull that off over 28 races. So it's only with trading do you really stand a chance. If you look at it objectively, when you're trading, you're going to be at a minimum a flip of a coin. It's either going to go up or down. It's a 50-50 chance, and therefore, you know, you're going to win or you're not going to win. But if you look at that result from last year, and there were 28 winners consecutively, even if it was a flip of a coin, to get ahead 28 times in a row is a 268 million to 1 shot. So if you look at the festival in isolation, you could do that by a complete fluke, but it would be once every 268 million years. So you can see that there is a bit of skill involved there, and that's the same. You know, with trading, you've got to accept that there is an element of skill in there in terms of how you trade the market and what you're doing within the market. If you trade it at random, you're going to get random results, and it'll take you 268 million years to be able to repeat what I did at last year's Cheltenham. But I'm sure as hell going to give it another try this year. And you'll notice that I managed to do it on BetStack, but not on Betfair. And that is simply because the order queues on BetDAC are a little bit shorter, smaller rather, and therefore you can get a few more trades through on BetDAC that you can't on Betfair. So I've sort of generally overperformed in terms of my strike rate at Betfair on BetDAC, but obviously when you go through Betfair you can push some more money through if you get the right sort of markets. So yeah, use both. That's what I do during a big meeting. I'll have both up there and I'll try and trade both. But typically what I'll do is I'll switch to one or the other depending upon how I think it's going to trade on that particular race. But I suggest you download BetAngel for BetDAC. It's free of charge. You may as well use it, and you may find you actually get on with that better than you do on Betfair. But it's up to you which one you want to choose, whether you want to go for the big money or whether you want a different type of trade. It's going to be down to your own personal preference and trading style. Last year was funny in that I remember it quite well for a couple of different reasons, and that was the first race at Cheltenham last year. There was a horse called Layback that refused to race several times. So I went on publicly and just sort of said, you know, whatever you do, don't back this because it's not going to win, because it's probably not even going to race. And what did it do? It actually started and went on and won the race. So it's like, Peter as tipster, fail. That seems to be always the case whenever you go and publicly announce something like that. It very often backfires. And the first day of the week at Cheltenham last year, it was me finding my feet in the market basically, and it's like that every year. I just try and understand how the market's behaving. I don't expect to get much on the Tuesday, and then hopefully my confidence will have built by Wednesday, and then by Friday I'm absolutely flying. And that's exactly what happened last year. By Friday I was absolutely flying, and some of the better results that I got over the course of the week came in on Friday, but that's just because I understood the markets much better. And we had this unusual situation last year in that some of the markets were a bit more erratic than we could have expected. The one that sticks in my head was Let's Dance, which won its particular race. But if you look at the pre-off market, if I slide over here, a graph will magically appear in the corner. But yeah, if you look at that chart from that particular race, it was one of the bizarrest charts that I've seen in a major race. It was all over the place, and it was very surprising to see that. But we did see this on a couple of occasions through the meeting, so I'm going to be keeping a really close eye and looking out for that and see if that occurs again this year. But that, you know, you've seen in previous videos that I've just done that does seem to be a tendency of late, in that the market does appear to be creating and producing those sort of weird moments within the market. So yeah, I'll be on the lookout for that. But we also had a bit of a Willie Mullins, Ruby Walsh sort of gamble going on as well, which allowed me to perform a bit better on the Friday. That seems to produce a couple of more favourable results. Now, if what we've done this year is we've produced several different videos. This one, we've truncated some of the videos from the prior year and put it into a shorter video that you can watch as well. But what we're also going to do is we're going to upload all of the previous Cheltenham videos onto the Academy, where you can actually view them in a proper playlist. So if you want to spend an hour looking at all of my previous comments at Cheltenham, please go to the BetAngel Academy, or BetAngel Academy, I should say, betangelacademy.com. and you can view all of the videos there amongst other content that you won't see available on YouTube. So yeah, plenty of stuff to be getting on with. I'm looking forward to having a good week. As the week progresses, I'll update all of my thoughts on Twitter and on the forum where you can chat to me and other traders about what we're doing at Cheltenham. And it just remains for me to say, I hope you have a really good one. I hope I have a good one as well. I'm going to try my hardest to get as much as I can out of the market this year, as I do every year, and I hope that you will do so as well.